Armageddon today?
I don't know, it's a tough matchup.
Yeah.
I think
I'd imagine
we might see Renato Terry, Eric Hansen again on Armageddon.
Possibly, yeah. Hello everyone and welcome to the Armageddon show. If you like your chess fast and furious with a lot of spice, you'll come to the right place. I'm Grandmaster Simon Williams, broadcasting from the Berlin studios. I'm here with the lovely Ivanka Huska.
Thank you, Simon. It's a pleasure to be here in this amazing studio and also with this revolutionary show and its revolutionary brand new format, because this is Armageddon Championship Series 2023 season, the ultimate chess showdown of the year. There are 4 qualifying events: Americas, Asia and Oceania, women's event, and Europe and Africa. 2 players from each continent have qualified online, while 6 of the strongest players from each continent have received invitations.
The finest minds in the game will compete fiercely for a chance to enter the grand final and win the Armageddon Championship title. All events are broadcast live from Berlin's World Chess Club on Unter den Linden.
And we kick off with the America series. During this week, these top 8 players from the American continents will show us how it's done. And Simon, check out that lineup.
Incredible lineup. I mean, we're starting with Wesley So, Sam Shankland and Leinier Dominguez, all brilliant players from the US of A. And of course, there's Eric Hansen.
Yeah, big streamer there. And then we have Renato Terry, Jose Martinez from Peru, and Andrew Tang and Ray Robson from the USA.
2 of our participants in the series qualified online, which makes Armageddon very unique. The first chess show where any person has a chance to go out and start playing against these legends of chess.
And you mentioned playing, Simon, and we have to mention one of our partners, the FIDE Online Arena, which hosts rated tournaments and games 24 hours per day. Join the arena and you'll get a FIDE ID, profile on FIDE.com, access to pro chess community, free access to prize money tournaments, and much more. So play official games at chessarena.com.
And if we bring up the bracket, we can have a little look at how things are set. And the very unique thing also about this event is that if you lose, and we've all done that before in chess, some of us more than others, you get another chance to get back into the competition.
You certainly do. The players play 2 blitz games of 3 minutes plus 2 seconds per move against each other. And if the match is tied, they play an Armageddon game, where white will have 5 minutes on the clock but needs to win to get through to the next stage. Black will have 4 minutes but plays with draw odds. A draw is enough for them to qualify.
And we're getting very close to the start now, so let's have a look at the first 2 pairs that will play today. Well, the first match we have up is Wesley So, solid So, playing against Sam Shankland. And then we have Renato Terry against the legendary, shall we say, super chief, Eric Hansen.
And let's check out Wesley So and Sam Shankland. And now these 2 have played 18 games against each other. 9 have ended in draws, but get this, So has a tremendous score of 8 against 1 against Sam Shankland. It's massive.
Yeah, and I think we should just have a little deeper look at the players and get a bit more information about these legends of chess. We mentioned the first match was Wesley So, so let's just bring him up. And well, if you don't know who he is, what have you been doing? Why has your head been under a brick for these chess years? Wesley So is a legend of chess, a Filipino-born grandmaster now representing the US of A. He's very, very hard to beat with a brilliant technique, simply one of the best players in the world.
But he will be also facing tough competition, because let's check out Sam Shankland. You know, he has a blitz rating of 26.38. He's an Olympic gold medal winner with Team USA and also US champion in 2018. And get this, did you know he was once a participant in the reality TV show Survivor? Will he survive Armageddon? Well, we'll find out today.
I love the idea of that, the reality star on the chessboard. And we're getting very close to the first game. You can see the countdown clock there. There's 50 seconds left until they face off. It's going to be extremely exciting. I would say that the favourite has to be Wesley So, going on those stats, but anything can happen. I mean, what do you think will happen, Jovanka?
I mean, we started with a corker. I mean, these two are tremendous players. Both of them well prepared. Both of them have very straightforward, straight shooting styles. And there we can see the players. They are ready for action. And so you can feel the tension in the air. You see Wesley just settling himself in his chair. Someone running over to help Sam. And what a tremendous studio as well. I mean, it's almost like they're in a movie set.
It's unbelievable. I mean, those lights there, it's like being in a circus. And I think they're going to start any second now. It's getting exciting. Another very interesting thing about this is that they've got heart rate monitors. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. Are we going to have a handshake now? We do. And they're off. Boom! Let's bring on the Armageddon. Wesley with the white pieces, he's playing d4 and he's playing the Queen's Pawn opening, pretty main line. Sam sticking to his normal Slav here, Jovanka.
Yeah, in fact, Sam has actually done some courses on this particular opening and he's developing his light squared bishop out, and now Wesley now has to start putting pressure on this piece, and that's why he attacks that bishop. And now it's going to be all about whether he can achieve something in the early stages. Perhaps we're going to see knight takes bishop. Yeah, we have. And Wesley getting a small, tiny advantage of the bishop pair.
One thing I would like to note straight away, look at the heart rate monitors. Any heart rate over 100 is generally a bit stressed out. Wesley seems very relaxed, and Sam is 142. He looks pretty cool, but he's not that cool at the moment. The position, I think this is pretty standard. White has the advantage of the two bishops. In classical chess at a big level, grandmasters prefer having the two bishops. So I would say a slight advantage to Wesley, but black has this incredibly strong structure, a bit like a pyramid. It's very hard to break a pyramid down in the middle of the board. And we see they're playing their moves pretty quickly still. The time that Sam's got is still over 3 minutes, so he's playing really quick.
He's in his preparation. I mean, take a look at his heart rate. He's got 83. Meanwhile, Wesley So is 148.
Oh, it's Wesley. Sorry, I got that wrong. It's Wesley with the heart.
And now he's going up to 152. We have to mention any heart rate over 120 means the player is under severe stress. So Wesley perhaps caught off guard and maybe feeling the pressure of being in this situation of starting with the white pieces and needing to put the pressure on the get-go. Oh, the position has changed somewhat because there's been a trade of pawns. So everything is brewing up really nicely for a sharp middle game battle, because Wesley does have the trumps. He's going to get the center, and oh, that's why we see Sam just challenge, strike while the iron's hot, and putting the pressure. He's just relentless against Wesley.
It's a very risky strategy though, because we mentioned the two bishops, and you can see that Wesley has those two bishops, and bishops, they're like arrows, they're like missiles, they work on lots of open lines, and black is deciding to open up the position. So generally, positionally, this will help those bishops. And maybe Wesley is preparing a sacrifice with that light square bishop. I mean, that'd be a very brave move now if the bishop went and captured black's pawn on the right hand side. But on the other hand, Sam is playing tactically, opening things up, because it is a risky scenario. Neither side is castled. Castling is where you get your king safe. Why haven't they castled, Jovanka?
Maybe because they were worried about their kings. And we see Wesley just play a very unorthodox move. He drops the queen back to its starting square, getting ready to relocate her to the king side if needed. And wow, Wesley still not castling the king, and instead choosing to undermine black's pawns in the queen's side.
Jovanka,
instead, just accelerating the play.
When I very commonly or rarely go down the gym, I never hit 160. This is incredible. The whole game, Wesley's heart rate has been so high. We never see this in chess. We never see how high the heart rate goes. And there's been many studies showing that grandmasters lose a lot of weight when they're playing chess. And I think that this must confirm that. The position is still fairly even, I would say. I do prefer white. I do like the two bishops, but black doesn't have many problems either here.
No, he certainly doesn't have problems, but he surely must have breathed a big sigh of relief after getting the king castled. And now the tempo is on Sam, because he has to justify playing against this bishop pair. And yes, take a look at those pawns on the queen side. Yes, they're far up the board, but they leave behind a lot of squares, and consequences have arisen because the bishop has parked itself on b5, and Wesley maximizing his pieces.
170 nearly. They're playing a lot quicker now. Look at the tempo change. Both of them have now spent about half of their time. The good thing about Sam's position is the knights. Knights are extremely tricky pieces. Some people even say that in blitz chess, this is blitz chess, it's very, very quick, that knights are better than bishops because they're more tricky. They're the only piece that can jump around, and that black knight does look actually very nice for Sam in the middle board. So I think it's still fairly even. It could come down to the clock though, and Wesley has the advantage of 20 seconds. Let's remember, if the clock gets to 0, you lose. You lose the match.
Yeah, you certainly do. And we also have to remind ourselves and all the viewers that each player gets 2 seconds upon every move. And you kind of hit the nail on the head there when you talked about the minor pieces. For me, I think white is a tiny bit better because of the bishop pair, but also because of the knights parked on f6. It doesn't have a good circuit. It really wants to fight its sibling there on d5. And whoa,
they're speeding up there, aren't they?
Now
I
upping the speed. You know, when we see a whole flurry of moves, and now we've gone into an endgame, and this endgame has to favor white.
I mean, I'm not so sure. I mean, I think it's, you know, if we look at the pawn structure, there's 2 things in a game of chess. It's your pawns, which are your foot soldiers, and then it's your pieces, which are your main sort of powerful units. Well, white has this actually weak pawn in the middle of the board, and black's now put a knight in front of that pawn, and I can see that white pawn being lost. And at this level, if you go 1 pawn down, you're really going to struggle. Maybe just in the balance, but the clock time, to my eyes, is going to be key.
It certainly is going to be key, and interesting move there from Sam, actually compromising his structure there on the king side and securing a spot for the knight. And we can see Wesley centralizing the queens. This is perfect strategy. Got to put the queens in the center. That way they have maximum power.
And let's remind everyone that they do get a little bit of time every move that they make. It's not a lot of time, but it's a second or 2 just to help them out here. And it seems like Wesley is still very tense there, with his heart rate monitor being basically over double of Sam's, which is frankly quite incredible. Those black knights, they're centralized, they're looking very good to me. Black has kept his monster knight in the middle of the board. White now might be trying to swap that knight off, but he will lose the advantage of the bishop pair. I still think it's fairly even. No one has made a breakthrough. No one has won material. Both kings are quite safe, and they're really picking up the pace. Oh, there's a big threat here. There's a big threat. The white queen is threatening to take the pawn with check. Black must do something about that move.
He has to either drop the knight back or take a committal move, kick back the queen, and that's what's happened. And there we see a trade, knight, bishop. And oh, this is such a difficult endgame for both sides. And are we going to see a trade of queens? If we see a trade of queens, it's going to be opposite color bishop, and it's probably going to be a draw. There's just no way the 2 pieces can fight each other. And there we see the players.
It's funny, these bishops, you can look at them and look what colour squares they're on. One of them was on the light squares and the other one is on the dark squares. I think it was Boris Spassky who said when he got divorced, we were just like bishops on opposite colour squares. We weren't really connecting. And the problem with these bishops is that they can't connect with each other. So they just dance around in the moonlight, never really hitting each other, and that's why it's very likely that this will be a draw. One side is going to have to make a big error to lose, but Sam is down to 20 seconds, but as long as he keeps moving, he's going to get a bit of extra time every time he makes a move, Jovanka.
He does, and he just simply has to dance with his kings, protect the weakness on d5, and just take a look at his bishop park there on d8. It's covering any entry points for the white king. Really nothing that either player can do, just shuffle the pieces To and fro.
It's very interesting in the ending because at the start of the game, in the opening, the king is something you want to keep safe because, of course, if you get attacked and you can't escape it, it's checkmate. But at the end of the game, the king becomes a very powerful piece because it's less likely to be checkmated and you can try to get your king into your opponent's half of the board. This is what Wesley is trying to do here. You can see him moving his king forwards. Okay, we have more exchanges. The more pawns that come off, the more likely a draw is. And I really think they must now realise that the game is becoming a pretty solid draw. And there you go, they have agreed a draw, Jovanka.
Whoa, what an impressive game, actually. And I have to say, Sam Shankland really came to this game well prepared. He knew exactly what to do. His heart rate never varied from 83. He was calm, in control, and he easily neutralized Wesley, who just looked slightly emotional, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I think Wesley was thrown into the deep end there, as we saw by the heart monitor. He's lost the advantage of having the white pieces. Like we say, this is similar to having a serve in tennis. You get to go first, you get to take the initiative. So the next game is going to be, well, probably slightly in Sam's favour because he has that serve. He looks so cool. He's one cucumber, cool cucumber there. I don't know about cucumber, but he's certainly very cool. And we'll have to see how that one goes, which is going to start extremely soon. And shortly we'll bring you the most interesting moments of that game. I mean, did either side have a big chance there, Jovanka?
No, I mean, I think it was a very level game. I have to say, I did think that Wesley perhaps could have had the chance to maybe maximize the power of the two bishops a little bit more, but in the end, he just didn't have enough time just to nurture that small advantage through.
I think Sam played very well there. You remember that knight being right in the middle, and knights are fantastic when they stay in the middle of the board. Look at that, you can see that black knight, and as long as that black knight stays in the middle of the board, white can't attack it with a pawn. That knight will remain there, and a knight in the middle of the board is actually better than a bishop because it's like a spider, like an octopus. Its tentacles spreading everywhere, controlling so many squares. And of course, now that I said that, he's moved it away from the center. That's just typical commentator's curse. But he's going to move the other knight in the center.
Exactly, and I think this is so instructive. He saw that the two knights were fighting for the same square, and he decides to initiate a set of maneuvers just to solve that problem.
He did, and we saw there that knight came back to put the other one there, but he had big control of the center, and we can see here a little bit further down that knight still there. Wesley with this last move creates a nasty threat. You can see the bishop and the queen are on the same line. That's a very good technique. One of the first techniques that my dad taught me. You lined them up and Sam had to defend. The queen comes back, and now we had many exchanges. And the thing is, the more pieces that get exchanged, the more likely a draw is. And we got to that ending where there wasn't really much to play for. It was pretty drawn, wasn't it? I mean, they fought it out a little bit there.
A perfect game of chess is a draw.
That's what they say. So if God played God, it would be a draw? Is that what we're saying, Jovanka?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's been sold by the computers, allegedly. I don't tell a lie. It is humans who are playing the game, and humans are fallible, and there we see the end of the game, where a fair result was indeed achieved.
It was, and that was a very solid handshake from Sam as well. I like that. But a very good game to start us off this very exciting Armageddon series. And very shortly, they're going to be back. And well, we can see the next game will start extremely shortly. Well, we have the countdown already. So we've only got 55 seconds to go. And just to remind everyone, because the first game was a draw, if either side now wins, they go through to the next round, which is what they're here to do, Jovanka.
Yeah, and anyone who loses their match, they do still get a second chance. They will just simply drop down to the lower bracket. And I have to say, as you mentioned, Sam starts off with the white pieces. I think he will have the advantage. He's come prepared, he's come focused, he's fit, he's ready. And I'm looking forward to seeing how he's going to open up. He traditionally opens up with the queen's pawn, and there we see the players. They are sitting in their chairs, and Wesley looking slightly jittery, not finding himself quite comfortable.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of pressure on the players. I love the lighting here. You can see that the light will change when they're kicking off. Sam looks extremely dedicated, concentrated, and they're off. Let's bring it on. We have e4, e5. and this is the most common of openings. We call this this is the Berlin variation. The Berlin variation in Berlin. That's got to be appropriate, Ivanka.
Yeah, and often with the Berlin variation, we are talking about Berlin draws, but here we will not see that particular line because Sam is a very fighting player. He doesn't believe in short draws, he doesn't approve of it, and instead he's like, nope, this game is going to be a fight, and there we see. White has struck out already in the center.
Yes, and again, the advantage of having white is that you can put a little bit of pressure on your opponent. Some players prefer playing with the black pieces. They're mad, but they prefer playing because they are more the counter-attacking kind of player. I like playing with the white pieces because I like taking the initiative. The best form of defense is attack, after all. And going now to our digital board, what are the heart rates like? Well, Wesley's a little bit lower, but he's still really high, Ivanka.
And talking about someone who has risen is Sam. You know, last game we saw him consistently in 85 in his comfort zone, and now it's risen to 101, which means that perhaps he was surprised. He hasn't been expecting this, and now he's on his own freestyling.
Yeah, I mean, again, look at the knights. This is, so far in the Armageddon series, a bit of a picture about the knights. They're all huddling right in the middle of the board. They're quite pretty. Do you think they're friends there, Ivanka? Do you think they're friends?
Most certainly not.
You don't think? I don't think they are either, but they seem to be like all saying, I want that square. No, I want that square. I want the center of the board. And I do prefer white's knights at this moment in time, but another thing we should point out, one side is a pawn up here. If we just count the material, we can see that black actually has an extra pawn. But the thing that's maybe a little bit worrying is those white knights. Compensation?
Definitely compensation, but he has to strike now. I mean, he has to generate something. I mean, it could be the queen coming out to h5 and start tickling. And I'm just also wondering, is there any sacrificing?
Oh, wow. Oh, no. I thought the other knight was going to come in and take that pawn.
Exactly, I thought he was going to take that pawn and launch an attack, but it hasn't happened.
A little bit of a shame there, I think, because like we saw in the last game, the more pieces that get exchanged off, maybe the more drawish it gets, but Sam is still throwing the piece out. He's put himself in a fork. Why has he done that? The bishop's moved out and that black pawn is attacking two pieces, like a fork. You use a fork, it has a couple of prongs on it, and that move that black's played is attacking the knight and the bishop. I expect white can get out of this by keeping the action going and capturing a piece, Ivanka.
Yeah, I expect that too. He's either going to give a check, as he's done now, or he's going to go knight takes knight. I wasn't sure about this move because it does invite black to actually block that check with his pawn and liberate his own light square bishop.
Ivanka, how many pieces, how many white pieces on pre? There's 3 pieces on pre. Okay, now only 2 pieces. The knight has captured the knight. It's very, very tactical here.
It is, and we see some clever exchanges from Wesley, who's traded rooks just to displace the white queen. Put her on the e1 where she's actually not threatening anything. And once again, white has to deal with these
Ivanka,
two bishops.
did you see that?
Attack.
Did you see that? Sam had a little shake of his head. I mean, body language is so important. You can often tell when someone's not happy, and you can see that Wesley has gone into the zone. There's another little shake of the head. They say there's not really many emotions in chess, but you're seeing it now. You're seeing it with the heart rate. And look at Sam's heart rate go up. It is going up. He realizes that his bishops are in trouble. He has to counterattack, and he's done that by bringing the rook into the center, Ivanka.
Yeah, this is a nice move from Sam. You know, he's coming armed with all the tactics. The whole idea is that if you were to take the bishop, the rook would capture the knight, and there would be some back rank issues for the black king. And
this
Wesley,
last move's nice though. Lovely move. Lovely move.
They're so good at calculation. You know, they spot every single resource. And he's like, fine, I will capture that pawn, attack the queen. And how many pieces are on pre's in this particular
Well, I was
position?
thinking, Ivanka, if black could attack the white rook, every single white piece would be attacked. He has to move his queen now. I'm like, what is that move? Oh my words. That is the most ridiculous move I've seen today. He puts his queen in. He loves getting forked. He does. He loves getting forked. He's done it again. But you can't take the queen here, Ivanka. Why can't you take the queen with the pawn?
Yeah, you can't take it because it's pinned. As simple as that. And now, I mean, actually, we just saw Sam's heart rate just sink down. It was like, aha, I like this move. He's in his comfort zone now. And we see Wesley capture the bishop, and we see queen takes knight on the board. Still very, very unbalanced position. The players, not so much time for Sam Shankland, just under 40 seconds.
This has been a really tactical game. I mean, there's two ways that people say you can play chess. By slow maneuvers, we kind of saw that in the first game, or by very aggressive attacking, and we're seeing that in this game. If we, again, now is slowed down slightly because there's not too many threats on the board, but we can see that black is one pawn up. So now Wesley would like to get to the ending because the extra pawns really count in the ending. If he can, there's a great chance Wesley will win this game. The queen's come out. Sam's also down to 30 seconds here, Jovanka. It's not looking great for Sam now.
It's certainly not. I love the queen move that Wesley's played, you know, just to put the queen next to the king so it gets ready for defensive maneuvers if need be. And look at him again, you know, he is so solid. He's just saying, let's trade off queens. Sam says no, but then puts his queen all the way back to f2. That's just passive. That's a negative decision. And Wesley comes forward with the pawns. I
mean, look at those black pawns in the middle of the board. When you've got an extra pawn, you should use it. And we say that a passed pawn is a pawn where there's not really an opposing pawn in that way. And the pawn in front of black's queen is a passed pawn. If you get a pawn to the other end of the board, you get a queen. So it's very possible that could happen in this game. I don't like Sam's chances. He's going to have to really fight here. 16 seconds, keep an eye on the clock. They're so cool with so little time, though.
But I think we're seeing some mistakes. We're seeing Sam getting a bit flustered because is there some back rank issues there already?
Well, Wesley is calculating deeply about what to do here, and he could have gone straight in with the queen. He moves it back. That queen, which square's it on? A little bit of a loose move there. Put it on the square it's supposed to be on. Sam makes an escape square for his king, and I think Wesley, you know, we do call him so solid, so is playing with that in mind, just keeping things under control, Jovanka.
Yeah, he is certainly, and he's improved his rook, and now he's maximizing his queen, and Sam has just been forced to put his bishop on its starting square. This is not good news. He's just shuffling the pieces so as he can gain more time. And Sam would love a repetition, but Wesley is saying, no, thank you. Instead, I'm going to try to soften up those pawns there against your king.
And obviously a repetition, if you repeat the same position 3 times. Oh, hang on a minute, we have a result. I think he's just blundered. Sam has just blundered. Look at the emotion there. He just took a pawn with his rook, not realizing that So could just take that rook. He blundered a whole rook. You never see that at this level. It's basically a beginner's mistake. But he was under so much pressure, Jovanka.
Yeah, I mean, psychologically as well, those moves are so difficult to spot. You know, moving the queen backwards. I mean, that's just psychologically very hard. And as you say, Sam was on the back foot for a lot of that game.
Very exciting game there, and it looked like Sam was really going for it. You have to admire his brave moves because time and time again he just kept coming forwards. But there is a saying in chess, Jovanka, that you can overextend yourself, and unfortunately I think Sam overextended himself there, and Wesley, he doesn't miss opportunities like that.
No, he doesn't. As they say, with great power comes great responsibility. With great space comes great responsibility, and Sam did not live up to that challenge. But Wesley, what a defensive genius. You know, he knew how to tie his position together and patch things up right when the moment got tough.
Yes, so I mean, it was a very interesting game, but we now do have the result. So the result is that Wesley is going through to the next round. He did beat Sam, so that's the first of our battles today over, and we will at some point have a chat with Wesley. So he'll be joining us, which is going to be very interesting, and get his views on what happened. The second match of the day will be coming up a bit later, but it's not all over for Sam. He's not knocked out yet, Jovanka, because in this format, if you lose, you can still get through. You go down to the lovely named losers bracket.
Lower bracket.
The lower bracket.
The lower bracket.
No, I call it the losers bracket, not the lower bracket. It's where the losers go.
But you know, interesting enough, if you're still in the lower bracket, you can still win the tournament. But I mean, what a fight. I mean, yes, the second game did not go Sam's way, but I mean, he really towed just danced toe to toe with Wesley all the way to the very end until he made that big blunder.
Yes, it was a very exciting game, and you can see that Sam, he got himself in a bit of trouble. He had a very uncomfortable position, and at the end there, well, the pressure got a little bit too much and a piece was dropped. This is what we call in chess. When you drop a piece, drop a rook's worth 5 points, you go 5 points down, and you're going to lose the game. So it looks now we are going to be joined very shortly by the winner of that match, and we can get his views on what actually happened there. So very excited to see that. And how do you think Sam's feeling? He didn't, well, obviously you're going to be a bit depressed after losing that.
Yeah, I think he'll be gutted. I think also he will have, he would be very proud of the fact that he actually got his opening preparation in, and perhaps he would be disappointed that he didn't get more, especially from that second game where perhaps there was an opportunity to draw out the Black King.
Yeah, I mean, again, there's certain styles in chess, and I've always thought that your kind of personality is reflected in the way you play chess. So, you know, if you like staying in, having a cup of tea and doing accounts, maybe you're quite a solid chess player. This could be a myth, but this is what I think. On the other hand, if you like the more flamboyant life and you like going out and partying a bit, maybe you love sacrificing pieces, attacking and playing in a more of a flairish kind of way. Do you agree with that? Do you think style in life is reflected on the board? I can see in your face you don't agree.
Sorry, Simon.
Okay.
I'm going to have to disagree with you there, because I've seen some of the most aggressive players be very calm and very, meek in real life.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, that's, well, it's just an idea there. And it did look to me that Sam at least went full guns blazing there. So you have to give him the credit for all the action he was putting off, the attacking moves. I mean, how many forks did we have in that game? It was like 1 fork, 2 fork, 3 forks, 5 forks. There was
it was just complicated. At some point,
yeah.
I mean, it was like nearly every single one of Sam's pieces was under attack. I mean, that's so rare.
It was incredible. It was incredible.
Pieces were flying. There were so many things to complicate. And of course, with this time control of 3 minutes plus 2 seconds per move, it's just impossible to keep your head straight. It's impossible just to maintain the nerves. And at some point, you just cracked, and we saw that happen to Sam.
Yeah, easy to do when the pressure gets you. I mean, another thing about chess, I've always found that it doesn't compare to any other game or sport. You make the slightest mistake in chess and you lose. You can lose the tournament, lose the match. In other sports, you might make a small mistake, but you can come back into the game. So it's very unforgiving. It's not a team sport as well. So the only person you can blame when you lose, you can't blame the goalkeeper or you can't blame the arbiter. You can only blame yourself. So it's great for that kind of reflection and to learn some important lessons in life from. Jovanka, what have you learned in life from chess? Any important lessons? That's a really hard question.
Every move has its consequences.
There you go. What a great analogy. So everything you do in life, like on the board, has its consequences. And we're going to see more of that as this Armageddon tournament goes on. And as you can see, the format is so quick. And we are going to have the interviews come through now. And first of all, I think we do have an interview very shortly. So we're going to have the interviews coming through in some time, but also with the loser and with the winner. So, I mean, losing at anything is horrible, right?
Yeah.
But losing at chess, I mean, it's happened to me far too many times, and it still does. But it's so painful, Jovanka.
It is painful, primarily because, like you say, you know, you've only got yourself to blame, and somehow, you know, you have to be in tune with your motion, and especially with this time control, you need to have that correct synergy between the clock handling, your pieces, and your nerves. You know, when you get that fusion correct, it feels like this game is easy. But if one of those is off balance, then it can just easily lead to moments of panic. And overall, I think that there are some good things that Sam Shankland can take away from this match. He can take away from the fact that he was very strong with the black pieces. He really pushed Wesley with the white pieces in an uncompromising way. And also he stayed calm. In moments of great pressure when it was all feeling rather relentless.
It was, and he had a good game. It was a very exciting match there. I mean, I'm trying to think of my most painful loss
Oh,
and I've got
don't go there, Simon.
Don't go there.
It's not worth it.
There's some great stories in chess when people have lost. I mean, I know that, you know, a bit like sort of nerdy rock and roll stars, you know, breaking up their room, throwing things out the window. That's actually happened before. I've never done that, thankfully. Well, only a TV, so that's okay, but nothing more than a TV after a bad loss.
Yeah.
But we're now going to, I think, go to the loser, and we're actually going to see, if Sam's going to throw his TV out of his hotel window now.
Sam, I know it's not the result you were hoping for. It was a very tough match against Wesley. The first game was a draw. You lost the second. Can you tell us a bit about what happened?
Yeah, I mean, I thought I worked pretty hard for this one, and I prepared like really well. I think I got very nice position in both games. The first one sort of felt a little back and forth, but it probably was reasonably balanced throughout. I don't think either of us was ever more than a little better. And the second game, I just prepared this really aggressive idea, and my suspicion is I was totally winning like after 12, 13 moves, but with such short time, I think I probably had to find 1 or 2 precise moves, and if I don't, I'm just a couple pawns down, which is sort of what ended up happening. And of course, you know, the rook hang in the end was not brilliant, but it's already absolutely lost at that point, so I'm not too upset about that. I'm sure I probably missed like a direct win very early in the game is my suspicion, but it was fast enough that I'm not yet sure where it was.
You guys were the first pair to be playing here in this brand new tournament, brand new format, brand new playing hall. What was it like sitting there, the heart rate monitors? Tell us your impressions.
It was a little interesting. I mean, it was obviously a bit more showmanship than I'm used to in classical chess games, for example. Well, it was an interesting change of pace, so, you know, hopefully, I don't think it disturbed my play. I don't want to blame any difference for how I played, but hopefully I'll do better with the changes next time.
It's a double elimination format, which means we'll have you back, of course. How do you look forward to the next game?
Well, just the same as this one. You know, I came into this one thinking I was a slight underdog, but, well, I had my chance, and I failed to take it, and if I take it better next time, I think I'm reasonably optimistic.
Sam, now just a couple of questions, nothing to do with today, just to get to know you a bit better. My first question is about time controls. If there could only be one time control in chess, which one would you pick and why?
Classical for sure. It's what I've dedicated approximately 100% of my training to for the last 10 years. I also think classical's a lot more fair to like the masses. In general, I think in classical chess there's a very, very healthy divide between what talent will get you and what hard work will get you, and the faster the time controls go, the more and more that tilts towards talent and away from hard work. And as someone who's worked very hard, I certainly like the classical time control, and that's definitely where I'm strongest. I'm certainly glad that's where all the chess rankings and the world rankings that matter come from. So if you maybe choose one, it would certainly be classical, but just because I prefer that does not mean I don't like playing rapid events like this too. It's just a little different.
Speaking of hard work, my final question, for the youngsters coming up these days, do you think it's still important for them to look at old games of previous world champions, or do you think these days working hard with computers and all that might be enough?
I definitely think you learn more from modern games than old ones. I mean, I grew up studying old ones. I do understand their merits, but you know, I'm not going to say you can learn nothing from Capablanca, but the idea that you can learn more from Capablanca than from Kramnik is sort of strange to me. I mean, just the sort of the story of chess history is every single generation should be able to look back about 50 years and be like, what are these idiots thinking? And I'm sure 50 years from now they're going to look at me and think I'm a moron. So it's just how it goes.
Sam, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us, and best of luck for your next match.
Thank you.
And back to you in the studio, Jovanka and Simon.
So we're now joined by the winner, Wesley. So first of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
That was very, very exciting, I think we'll all agree. And we mentioned a second ago your heart rate in the first game. It got a little bit high there. Did you know that you had a high heart rate?
Yeah, it's totally crazy. I mean, I've worn this before in a few tournaments, and I'm always one of the players with the higher. I think I'd go around 140, 130. But no, I'm trying to get to get it lower. But the first game, I played very slowly. I was down on the clock, which is never a good sign. And then at some point, you know, I probably was not that much worse, but I was trying to make sure not to lose control. Yeah, with the bishop pair, probably never got more than close to equality, or maybe black was a little bit better. But at some point I was trying to get advantage, but just wasn't there.
Were you surprised out of the opening of the first game? Because we also saw your heart rate fluctuating a lot in the beginning.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, not a lot of people play the Slav these days. Probably Carlsen, Shankland, there's some of the few. There are many other good openings against D4. The main lines, of course, the name's so Indian, Queen's Gambit declined, Queen's Gambit accepted. There's also the Grunfeld. But Sam has played the Slav against me 2 years ago, but still it's not an opening I would expect him to play regularly.
And in your next match, you'll be facing the winner between Eric Hansen or Renato Terry. Who would you prefer to play?
That's a tough question, that is. Oh, I've got to get one tough one in there.
No comment. you know who I would prefer. I never heard of Renato Terry Lujan before. I don't know. Like
he's not a very well-known player, so we'll be seeing his match very shortly. But
yeah, that's true. I have no idea what to expect from him.
But Wesley, congratulations, and that brings us to the end of this interview. And we're very shortly going to be showing that match, so we'll sort of be moving over that way soon.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys.
Thank you. Tour, and this is they are one of the partners of the tour. They have this fantastic website server where you can basically create your own website. So if you've got a great idea out there, then that's the place to go. But more excitingly as well, I know you guys are here for the chess. We've got the next match coming up. So the next match is going to be a big one. We've got a lot of people's favorite player. We have Eric, the boss, or the chief, I think he said yesterday, Hansen versus Renato Terry. What do we think about that match, Ivanka?
It's going to be incredibly exciting because we have someone who's very known, Eric Hansen. We know his style, we've seen his openings, against someone who perhaps not everyone might have heard of, but he's a very, very natural player and the only international master in the competition. And let's deep dive into Eric Hansen, and there we can see some cool stats. He's a pioneer chess streamer, but don't let that fool you because his blitz rating is 2569 and he is fast. He was GM at 21 years old.
Yeah, incredibly strong player, very, very charming guy as well. And his opponent is a bit more of a dark horse. Renato Terry, only 31 years old, from Peru. Now, Peru, they don't have so many chess players, but they are known, the players that are there, for their innate ability. And you can see his blitz rating is extremely high, and he's really a specialist of online chess. He's won loads of incredible games online and very strong tournaments. So he's going to be a feared opponent, and he is one of the online qualifiers.
Yeah, and these two might have not played so much over the board, but between them it is a battle of the online sharks, and we can see it's under a minute until they kick off. And incidentally, these two have played online, and Renato is the one who leads with a very narrow margin of 13-11.
I feel this is going to be a very close match. I mean, the last one was close, but these two on paper are very similar grades. They're both maybe known for more playing without a board online, but in this case, we're going to have to see how the pieces move. There they are in the studio. Eric, or the chief, is sitting there looking very dedicated. Nice bit of blue lighting going on. And Renato there also, I wonder what their pulse rate's going to be here.
I can't wait to see that. I mean, that was a very intriguing thing that we saw in the first match about how Wesley is not as calm as he appears. 9 seconds, the countdown has begun. The players are there in their sweatshirts. They have their heart rate monitors on, and they are about to kick off. Handshake, and we have to see the first move, and it is knight f3. And Eric copies as well. And I have to say one thing about the Peruvian players is that I've studied them a little bit. They're not that strong in the opening.
Well,
but they have this wonderful ability to put their pieces in the right squares, to find natural developing moves, and then suddenly get very good middle game positions. So
well, you can see this from the second move that White's played. This little move of moving the pawn 1 square. It's a rather timid move. It's saying, I don't want to battle you. I'm a little bit, I just want to take my time of getting the board, because the center is the most important part of the board. And you generally want to take control by moving as far forwards as you can. But he is just playing a slow strategy. Eric, a brilliant player, but maybe more known for his tactics, and that, Ivanka, could also be why he's just standing off a little bit. He doesn't want to get in confrontations straight away.
And it almost feels like they're playing a different tempo, almost different time control to the previous match, because there was fast, it was furious, and here the players are moving rather delicately. There's some trades on the board, and Eric voluntarily giving up his light squared bishop. Somewhat risky, I think.
Well, we saw this in the first match, didn't we? I mean, we saw the Wesley there in the interview saying again about the bishop pair, and you can see that White has those 2 bishops, Black's got the 2 knights. Which one is going to triumph? I actually prefer the knights, but I'm a bit strange like that. I mean, maybe just a bit strange, who knows? But I love the knights because they can jump around and cause so much chaos. I think they're very tricky pieces.
Oh yeah. Look at this. Did you expect this move, Simon? I mean, he just launches forward with his G-pawn, and he says, you know what? I'm going to maximize that bishop I've got sitting on the perfect diagonal on B2. That is something that would just have shocked Eric. And Eric's heart rate now 111, and it's actually Terry Renato who is heart rate's around about 120. Bishop coming out to D6. The knight is threatening to jump onto E5 and attack the queen.
Yeah, I mean, with the heart rates, it is very interesting. They both look so chilled out, don't they? I mean, they played thousands upon thousands of chess games. I do prefer White's position at the moment. I love this little assassin of a bishop on the left-hand side. If you can see White's bishop just in front of the knight, or the horsey, if you want to call it horsey, you get in trouble sometimes saying that. That is a great piece. But again, a very timid move from Renato there. And how's Eric going to continue? Okay, he tries to swap off that powerful bishop. A very clever response from Eric. Maybe a little advantage for White, but not much.
Not much, and Renato Terry says absolutely not. I would rather hold on to my bishop pair.
I mean, he does know that the pawns can move 2 squares forwards. He does because he's moved one of them, but maybe he thinks the pawns on the left-hand side can only move 1 at a time.
But I mean, it looks a little bit odd, but fundamentally, White has done nothing wrong. I mean, he's just put his pawns on passive, and I'm saying passive in inverted commas, squares. And once he finds a good diagonal or good role for the light square bishop, then he can go about slowly driving back the dark square bishop and slowly breaking things open in the center. And it's still very much anyone's game.
Not much contact has been made. I mean, if you remember the last game we saw in this Armageddon series, we saw that Sam, oh my words, he's done another one. Look at it, he's moved another pawn 1 square. What do you call this? You call this the squidgy squodgy attack, do you? I don't know, I'm just making up names here, but...
I have a name.
Go on then, what's your name?
Berlin Wall.
The Berlin Wall. Well, there is an opening called the Berlin Wall, of course, and it could be the slowed down Berlin squidgy squodgy attack, but very strange sort of play from White here, and he's using he really doesn't want to get straight into the battle. He's doing it at slow motion chess.
It is slow motion chess, but take a look at the clock timings. Eric has just under a minute. It's weird what Renato Terry is doing. And so he's just asking Eric some questions. How are you going to handle this weird type of chess? And how are you going to handle all the ensuing complications that will happen? And I guarantee you they will.
Well, I love these moves from black. I mean, normally the centre's so important, but Eric's pushed both of his pawns in front of his rooks, 2 squares, these wing pawns. And, you know, chess is based on a battle, it's based on war. And in a war, the centre of the field is normally the strongest, but you can use the flank attacks, as they used to do in the old days in war. And that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to use these flanks to get into Renato's position here. But the pawns move forwards, attacking the knight. And we can see that that knight has had to retreat. Oh, I love that move.
And what a disruptor move, you know. Give up a pawn, but just absolutely wreck the black pawn structure. And here it comes, you know, the light square bishop gets a roll, attacking the g6 pawn. And white is also going to back that up with pushing the pawn in the middle of the board. And Eric, now he's forced to use his knights in purely defensive roles.
And you can see there the actual clock, and the important thing is when you make your move, you start your opponent's clock by pressing the white handle. So we have this situation, it's called a sacrifice. Again, in a war situation, often minute troops are sacrificed to benefit the greater cause. And, well, he is retreating now. I'm not sure this is the right strategy. When you give up a pawn to go backwards, it's not really what you want to do. When you give up a pawn, you want to go forwards. You want to keep the pressure on your opponent. So Eric's chances, to my eyes, are improving. 25 seconds versus 30. Whoa.
It's scary stuff, and the position has yet to kind of set on fire as well. I mean, that is brewing, and the players will have to deal with that with no time on the clock. I have to say, even though white is a pawn down, I still do prefer white's position, just because I think it's slightly easier to play. And I do like what Eric is doing, though. Having said all this, he's just opening up lines, accelerating the play, and whoa.
Well, there goes that pawn. So he's lost his one advantage. He's lost the pawn. But look at that rook swinging all the way down to attack white's king. That is a put it in your pipe and smoke it moment. Check to the king. Can he defend the check? Yes, he can block the check.
That's the only thing he can do, right? Or he can move with his king.
Well, if he moves the rook back, is there a queen takes knight? Is this possible? No, he's just captured it off. But look at the time. They've got to start moving quicker. It's 13 versus 11. That's so calm. He's only got 10 seconds left. Move!
Yeah, and moving they are doing. I think it's about time to get the king into safety, but Renato Terry says absolutely not. No need.
And they're speeding up now. You can see their arms are moving quicker.
7 seconds. 5 seconds, 4 seconds, 3 seconds. He's only going to get
2, 1. Oh!
He made
a move with 1 second. Unbelievable.
Yeah. Oh, he's living life on the edge there. And now it's just instinct. The panic is setting in. It's just about making those moves as quickly as possible.
And just keep an eye on the clock. I think this could go still any way the result. Another piece gets exchanged off here. It looks like white has a little bit of pressure, but the material is equal. They have the same amount of points. That white queen is trying to sneak into the position. Now Eric getting ready to use his queen.
3,
shaking.
2, 1.
Look at his hand.
Once again.
He's shaking as well. He was shaking. He's so nervous here. Eric, very much the calmer player at the moment. And I like Eric's position here.
Yeah, this is so difficult to play with your king exposed like that. 4 seconds. Okay, giving a check. But the king is going to hide away to safety. And once again, it's the white king that is in trouble.
This looks fantastic for black.
The
queen comes in as well. There's a massive threat. That white king is so exposed. It's running up the board, but the queen's on the board. You can't run with your king. It's naked. That king surely can't survive. It's got to be checkmate very soon. The king is totally trapped. Can he defend? Checkmate on the board. We have checkmate on the board. Put that in your pipe and smoke it.
Whoa. What a game. What an exhilarating ride the players have taken us on. I mean, it looked like it was such a quiet opening that was really quirky, never really been seen before. And there we see it is Eric Hansen who emerged triumphant in that game. And we saw the series first checkmate.
I love seeing checkmate on the board, and it was a checkmate from what is actually supposed to be the weakest piece on the chessboard, the pawn, the little foot soldier. But little foot soldiers, they have been known to take down dynasties in history, and that's exactly what happened here. Looking at some key moments in the game, they started so slowly, Ivanka. I mean, the pace was like, okay, just going to warm up, go for my little sort of jog, maybe a bit of stretching,
I've never seen the like. You know, all the 5 pawns the white has on the 3rd row, and here things began to liven up, and you can just see. Take a look at the clocks. I mean, the players are just playing it, the position with just seconds left, and ideally they would have liked to have minutes there.
Yeah, it's such an exciting finish there. I mean, we saw Eric using that rook to come down at the end, and this is where it really got 1 second on the clock. Look at the clock there. That was remarkable, wasn't it, Ivanka? Just 1 second. And the thing here is that you see the white king. Eric somehow opens up avenues to get to the white king there, and a very close game as we predicted, with a very, very interesting result. And the beautiful thing about this, look at the white king. Eric sets up a little trap around it, that rook move, and now, oh, I like the way he moved that piece, very delicate. It's like, yep, that's checkmate, my friend. Very nice finish to an exciting game, but Ivanka, we don't have that long until the next one.
We certainly don't, and the players are going to kick off within the next minute. And Eric now looking like the firm favourite after all. He won with the black pieces, he will now have the white pieces, which means he can control the pace of the game. He can choose whether to employ a very solid opening or whether he will just simply stick with his own repertoire, which is quite compromising, quite straightforward, but something that Eric knows very well.
Yeah, I mean, we can go to the players, I think, now and just see them getting ready for this next game. Let's just remind everyone, it's only a 2-game match, so if Eric draws this game, he is through to the next round. Sometimes that puts a little bit more pressure on you because it's playing in your mind. Chess, after all, is the ultimate mind sport. It's the ultimate battle of wills. And Eric has to focus. You can see that. Look at those dead eyes from both players. They are just getting into the zone. 1 second to go, and we're going to have another Armageddon game. They're off. What will Eric play, Ivanka? The king's pawn, maybe?
Yeah, he always opens with the king's pawn. He did when I played him. We have my Caracan opening, which I think is a good choice against Eric. Eric, okay, he's playing quite a line, and I'm predicting that the second white knight will come out. No, he plays this very trendy line. So I would advise anyone who plays his opening with the black pieces, just simply do not capture that pawn in the middle of the board. Don't get tempted by going into an endgame. Instead, just develop your pieces and just play it very normally. Freestyle it, basically.
Well, especially when you have to win, because when the queens come off the board, you're getting rid of your strongest attacker, and that means that there's more chances of a draw. I love this move from Eric. My favorite pawn is that little guy on the side of the board. He's so lonely. We call him Harry in the chess world. Dirty Harry sometimes, from the film.
Yeah.
And he causes so many problems, doesn't he, Ivanka?
He does, but this is very, very double-edged, I have to say, because after all, Black has opened in a very solid way. He hasn't done anything wrong. And if you go for the jugular immediately, well, this can come back and bite you, because remember that expression, with great space comes great responsibility. By pushing that h4 pawn up the board, you have conceded a g4 square.
Well, one of the problems that Eric has actually found himself in here, he's moved the same pawn twice, and in chess, as in life, tempo, using that time you have available in your life is so important. You can waste time, and Eric has wasted time there, and wasting time gives the opponent the initiative, and I'm starting to think that Black may even have the advantage here, and when you've got the black pieces, to get the advantage so quickly is a massive gain. I'm not saying it's that bad for Eric, but things are going a little bit wrong for him at this moment in time.
Yeah, I mean, Black will be very happy because they've got development. I do think that Eric has also a very reasonable position, because after all, his pieces have got good squares. Bearing in mind that Black is in a must-win situation, then I do think that Renato will be the happier of the two.
Yeah, I mean, all the pieces remain on the board, so you've got all your soldiers, all your fighters to connect with the opposition. But Eric now just bringing his pieces into the game. You've got to get all your knights and your bishops working. You know, you can't have a battle with just one guy is running at the opposing army. I mean, that would be crazy. He'd look like an idiot. So you've got to get all your army running at your opponent's army. And again, we see a knight in the center there, Jovanka. That's a nice knight.
That is a nice knight, and I think it's allowed to live there, and instead Terry just decides, okay, I'm going to attack and destabilize that knight by attacking the bishop.
We see more exchanges again. They do help white, but you have quite a, what we say in chess, an unbalanced pawn structure, meaning that it's not symmetrical, and these also add to the chances of one side winning. And you know, there's no point for black to draw this game. Black might as well lose. It's the same outcome. He will be in the loser's bracket, the bracket below. He's pushing his A pawn. He's still very calm here. And I think this game's going to be like last time. Nice and calm, bang, in your face. So when are we going to see that moment, Jovanka? Will it come soon?
I think it's brewing, and taking a look at the dashboard, taking a look at the heart rates of the players, I can see Eric is under some stress with 111, 118, but for Renato Terry, really, he is feeling the pressure, he's feeling the heat, 136. I mean, he has to find a good square for his knight on the edge of the board, which is not working at all.
Yeah, certainly. There's another expression, knights on the rim are dim. That means knights on the edge of the board, they're not doing much because they can't jump off the board and have any effect. So the black knight right on the side there, you know, barely on the screen, is a bad piece. And I expect that black would consider now bringing that knight back into the center. The center is very important in chess. On the other hand, Eric not doing anything special. Eric just keeping things under control. The black rook moves. It takes an open line. Rooks move in straight lines, so when there's no pawns of your own color in the way, the black rook can work fantastically, as it does here, looking down the board at white's pawn, which is defended by the queen, but later on could be a target. Still fairly even, I'd say.
Yeah, some things do concern me. The primary factor is actually the black king. I mean, we saw in the first game that Renato Terry was very vulnerable because he forgot to castle. And here it seems like he might be falling into the same trick again. You know, look at his king, tucked in the middle of the board. I mean, the problem is if he castles now, then the white knight, which is primed in the middle of the board, could actually relocate itself to the king side and start eyeing up some pawns.
Oh, but, you know, just get the king safe somehow.
I would just be doing that in a heartbeat. Okay, that's excellent strategy. But he's left himself with so little time on the clock, just under a minute. And Eric, whoa, you know, I've always had him down as an aggressive player, but this is such a fine positional move. In this pawn structure that white has, the white knight wants to be parked on this d3 square, so it can look at the e5 and c5 squares.
Yeah, I mean, Eric is known as an attacking player, but I think we've seen in a lot of his blitz games, he has a great understanding of where the pieces should go. I would say the position is still fairly even. I love this last move from black. He swung the queen into white's territory, getting right near the white king. And will he move that knight? Okay, he's going to try to get the knight around. You can't just checkmate your opponent's king with one piece. You need to get more pieces in. Eric, still very calm, using his bishop just to shore up his king side. Eric would love to exchange queens, but look at the time again. 12 seconds. Oh, Eric must be in charge. He's got nearly an extra minute on the clock, and the time is so important.
It is so important, and did you just see Renato Terry's hand was shaking?
Yeah, he's nervous.
He's nervous, and he has the right to be nervous because Eric, they're just closing up any form of activity there. But
also, do you see the speed he moved that knight? That was like super speed wrists. That was a blur. And he's trying to, okay, but the queen has now come back. It didn't make any progress over on that side of the board. I do think that black's making a bit more progress here in the last couple of moves. And Eric is just trying to keep it calm and make sure that his king is stable. He moved the king up there just to keep it protected.
Yeah, and a very unusual move there from Renato Terry, playing the f6 move, blocking his bishop, but getting ready to break open in the center.
5, 4,
3, 2, 1, and Oh, he just goes for it. And now we see a queen trade, which I think Eric will be very happy to see.
Definitely. Like we mentioned before, the queens are the most dangerous pieces. You only need a draw, get the queens off the board. But I do think black is still absolutely fine with winning chances here because he's got more pawns in the middle. We've talked about the middle of the board being important, and look at those black pawns. He's swapping off one of white's pawns, okay, and now he's rerouting his bishop. The speed is really continuing. That rook enters into white's territory, and Eric's just trying to hold on here. I like what black's doing. Could we have our Armageddon game here?
Potentially. And Renato Terry's moves are quite straightforward. I mean, he just has to make a few improving moves, capture the pawn one way, perhaps move the king up the board. You know, playing a very sneaky chess. You know, he wants to perhaps double or threaten to double on the H line.
Well, now they've both got 7 seconds left, and Eric 6, 5, 4. Oh.
Kicking back the knight.
Very nice move there. If you've got a piece in your half of the board, you've got to try and attack it with a pawn, and the rooks are coming off. The more pieces that come off, the more nearer a draw. That's all that Eric needs.
The black knight is trapped.
Well, the black knight comes in, but I think it's okay at the moment. The pawn's coming up to save it. They've both got some bad pieces here. Just keep an eye on the clock, though. The knight is attacked. Is he going to swap the knight off?
Yes, he is. And now he's going to try to round up that pawn.
2 seconds.
The knight. Ooh. He has to generate some play. He has to move his rook to some active line and start attacking some weak pawns. And he just moves the king. He's panicking.
Well, he only had 1 second left, and Eric is now a pawn up. And his knight is such a fantastic piece there. It's on what we call an outpost. We go into a rook ending. The advantage is really with Eric being a pawn up in an ending. But it's not so clear because black's rook is very active. That's a mistake by Eric. Eric has made a big mistake. He's lost the pawn, and now black is coming in. Black has got great winning chances here.
And now it's a race.
I really like black's pawn in the middle of the board. In the ending, you want to get a pawn to the other end to get a queen, and black's pawn is just that nearer getting a queen. Eric trying to repeat the position, but the king, he's shaking. Is he going to go for it? He's not sure. He's not sure.
Okay, he cannot repeat the same move. He has to take a different decision, perhaps push the pawn. He moves his king up the board. Okay, now Eric is going to give a check and now go running with the g-pawn. And oh wow, this is just incredibly complicated. I would push the c-pawn, but he pushes the d-pawn. Eric can actually go hunting of the c-pawn, but that's okay.
It looks like a race, doesn't it? It's like a touchdown. You just try to get your pawn to the other end of the board. If you can do that, you get a queen. They're both there. The first queen, extra queen is on the board. He's taken that one. And now Eric has got to try and get a queen himself. Will he get the queen now? He does. He gets a queen on the board. It's going to be a race. What's happening here? It looks like black's going to get a second queen, first of all. And now Eric gets another queen. He's running out of queens. There's not enough queens around. And we have another weird ending, Ivanka.
Yeah, I know, but this endgame favors black, and you can see Eric shaking his head because black's king is closer to the action than white's. And this is the type of position that, yes, it might be technically draw, but it does not matter because the players only have seconds left on the clock, and the margin for error is incredibly high.
Yes, I mean, it might look like a dead draw, right? Because there's hardly any pieces left. But the problem is, we saw 2 queens. Each player's got 2 extra queens because they got their pawns the other end of the board.
5.
Black's winning idea here is to take white's pawn and queen his pawn. And the black king is just more active. The black king is nearer to white's pawn. And that means there's danger for white's pawn. And in actual fact, I think Eric's bringing his king the wrong way. The way to draw this is actually to put your king back where it came from and use your queen. So still a really tough match here. And 3 seconds versus 1. Oh my word.
Oh my word, we almost
2,
saw
1.
Eric blunder as
He's
well.
down. He's down on time. He's lost. He's lost on time. He's lost on time.
He's lost on time. It's over. We're going to see Armageddon. What a comeback from the Peruvian international master.
Incredible.
Oh, what an amazing, incredible game.
That was edge of the seat stuff. I need to just lay down for a little bit after that one, Ivanka. Can I just go under the desk and put my slippers on for a bit, please? And we will have our first Armageddon match. That was so intense. Eric losing on time there in probably a drawn position, but he was under pressure for quite some time. We saw 4 queens coming on the board, making a total of 6 queens in total. That's a lot of queens. But a very exciting time, and that means we have Armageddon.
Yeah, and we know, you know what we do when we have Armageddon. Armageddon is what we want. I mean, it's just going to be absolutely insane. You know, if you thought that there was action in those 2 games, when it comes to Armageddon, White will have 5 minutes on the clock, Black will have 4 minutes on the clock, but we'll get draw odds. So White will have to win.
That's right. So, and the other thing to bear in mind, in all the matches we've seen so far, it's been a case that they get extra time every move. That's not the case in Armageddon. It really is a fight to the death. And they start with these times, but they don't get time added on, so the clock is one of the most important factors. And they've only got 40 seconds until the next match. This is fast, it's furious, it's Armageddon.
It's what we've all been waiting for, and here it goes. We're going to see the players ready for action, primed. I mean, they're going to have to shake off all that adrenaline that's just pumping through their games, through their veins from the last 2 games.
It looks like we've only got 1 player there. He's going to have to run back quickly. I think it looks like we have Eric sitting down, but I'm not sure. Maybe one of them needs a little bit of a breather there, which I can totally understand. But very, very shortly, we're going to have this Armageddon match, and this will bring today's action to a close. But we're finishing in the most exciting way possible, right?
I mean, we've really had a fantastic day of matches. You know, first of all, we saw Sam Shankland, Wesley So set the pace, play some blistering chess, and along came these 2 who've, you know, given us checkmates, 6 queens. Not at the same time, but you know.
I don't think we could really have asked for much more there. I mean, what else do you want in life? 6 queens, checkmates on the board, action,
Armageddon,
people losing on time. So I think the winner of this match is going to be so hard to predict now. I mean, anyone could win it. You know, you throw a coin, take a bet, that's your winner at the moment.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think it's very, very important in this type of situation that one has to just go somewhere, get some fresh air if possible, and then just simply try to deep breathe and try to reset your composure. Because I can tell you, you know, I've played games like this, and you physically leave the board shaking. Because, you know, you cannot control the emotion, you cannot control anything that's happened, and often you're thinking about those what ifs. And the one I'm worried for is Eric, actually, because he had the advantage in this match.
Yeah, he's got to get in the right frame of mood. I mean, that's what it's all about. He lost that last game, and it's really hard to explain just how much adrenaline is running through the body. Well, you should be able to get an idea for that from the heart rate. When your heart rate goes up to 170, you are buzzing. And it's weird that this little game on 64 squares can achieve that. And a funny story I was playing one player who clearly could not handle the adrenaline, and he got to a point where he was shaking so much because of the adrenaline, he couldn't move the pieces. So he was like knocking the pieces over, and he lost on time because he was just so hyped up for the match. I mean, these guys are experts. It's not going to happen to them, but, you know, it is going through the system.
Well, you say that, but it has actually happened at high-level chess. I remember a very famous game between Magnus Carlsen and Alireza Firouzja a few years ago, and Alireza Firouzja was shaking. And he could not just handle and control those pieces, and as a result, Magnus just saved the game.
Yeah, just because it's a real buzz.
Yeah.
I mean, it's some of the most exciting moments you can have. And okay, it now looks like they are getting ready. The countdown is on. 40 seconds to go. And I don't know who's got the white pieces. We'll find out very soon. Maybe Eric. And let's just remind you the rules. If you've got white, now you have to win. If the game is a draw, or if black wins, black goes through to the next round. So it's all on this match. There's no added time, so the clock is so important.
Yeah, absolutely important. You need to focus. You need to have that body, mind, clock connection, I would say. Everything has to be balanced, and there we see Eric eyeballing his opponent. He's talking to himself, he's getting psyched up, he's getting into the flow. Handshake, and they are off. And Eric has the white pieces, which means he is in a must-win situation. And we're going to see a repeat of the second game. And we see Eric switch. He decides to instead employ the advanced variation. And Renato Terry, he is tricky as ever. Instead, he is going for a line that I actually recommended. It's crafty, and the whole idea is that you just destabilize the center.
Yeah, I mean, this line, I mean, I've looked at this. This is the start of the game. It's the opening stage of the game. And I decided that I would never like to play this position with the black pieces, because I thought generally white gets a very easy attack. You can see that white's pawn has already traveled quite far up the board. And it was ex-world champion Aliekin who said that this pawn is the great starting point for an attack. I think it was Aliekin. And here we go, Eric using another pawn, and he can bring his bishops in a second. The bishops, I think, will start developing. There we go, one bishop supporting that pawn, and the other bishop will probably line up against black's king there.
Yeah, so what's black's plan is, but Renato Terry has done it very quickly, is actually to destabilize the e5 pawn by pushing f6. Now, usually I would do it by actually moving my knight to h6 first, and then getting ready to relocate that knight to f7, put maximum pressure on that point. But it's not too late to do the plan that I mentioned. Well, another idea is to perhaps destabilize the pawn on b4 by undermining it with a5. I'm sure Renato Terry knows these ideas.
Yeah, if we just look at the kings though, I mean, this has been a real big theme. Obviously, it is in chess, who's got the safer king at the start of the game when checkmate is more of a possibility. Eric's can castle immediately. All he has to do is switch the king and the rook around, the only moment in chess where you can move two pieces at once. But black's king has got a knight in the way, so you have to get that knight out of the way, but then you have to castle. So I'll be a little bit fearful for black's knight. And I think, oh, hello, look at that. What's happening there? I can't, oh, that's a really bad sign. Eric's position is not bad, but I think he's recalling the last game. And I think he's thinking about, how did I lose that last game? That's such a bad psychological thing to do, Jovanka.
It certainly is. You cannot live with any regrets when you're playing chess. And Renato Terry taking a very interesting decision, closing up the center and reinforcing his pawn on d5. And after castles by Eric, I'm expecting Terry just to move his knight on the edge of the board and get his king to safety. The one concerning thing, and it's something that should concern players who play with the black pieces in Armageddon, is the clock situation. Because you can see there's a huge time difference at the minute.
Yes, and the difference, we've mentioned this many times, is you don't get any added on seconds in Armageddon. I think the black's doing actually totally fine here. He's got this kind of little zigzag of pawns, very solid. But Eric hasn't certainly not got a bad position. He's got more space, he's got more pawns into his opponent's half of the board, and his knights are maneuvering around. Aggressive move there from black. Everything to play for. He's under 2 minutes now. He's gonna have to start playing quicker, and he's actually going for white's king. He only needs a draw, but the best form of defense is attack, and that's what he's doing here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think he needs to do that. He needs to accelerate the play now, while he has the time on the clock to handle all the complications. There's no point in sharpening up the position when you only have seconds left, and this is such a nice French-type move. You put your bishop on this square, and it's going to relocate to the h5 square, and look at that, the bishop that was in jail is out. And I absolutely love the way that black is playing this.
Yeah, very nice, I agree. I mean, sometimes you can put your pieces into your own jail where they don't have any effect, and you've got to get them outside. No one wants to stay in jail, and that bishop, as you mentioned, Jovanka, is moving around to the king side. And now Eric, I think, has to move his knight, because if that bishop gets that square, I didn't think he'd move that knight, but that does attack a pawn. Eric has pressure on the queen side, but Renato has pressure on the king side. The time, though, I think this is going to be so important. 1 minute 44. He's really got to play quicker, I feel, with the black pieces here. Eric's slowing down now as well. Do they realise they don't get extra time? Come on, someone wake him up. It's Armageddon. It's not Sleepageddon. It's Armageddon. And he's moved his bishop in, but I'm just worried about this clock situation for both of them now.
Yeah, bishop takes bishop on the board, and now the bishop gets out to h5.
Why did Eric let that bishop get there? I don't think he should allow that. That black bishop is pinning the white knight down. And you can't move your white knight because you drop your queen, and you don't want to lose your queen, the poor old queen. Okay, he's got out the pin, Jovanka.
Yeah, this is good news. But okay, black's moves are relatively simple. He just has to mobilize the knight, put it on f5. Maybe he can also move the rook and try to take control over the b line.
He's so nervous.
He's reaching for the f8 rook. Where's it going? Rook f5.
I love this move. I was going to say, I really like the idea he's going to push his g-pawn. But okay, Eric's actually just attacked the rook. Maybe that wasn't a good move. He's grabbed the pawn, though. The rook has grabbed the pawn. Black's gone a pawn up. They're both under 2 minutes now. Did Eric see he was losing a pawn there, or did he just miss that? Was it a blunder?
He's counter-attacking the c6 pawn. So I think Eric had it under control, but he needs to speed up. He needs to make those moves. Otherwise, the clock difference isn't going to be that important.
Just the speed of their wrist, Jovanka, is so clear to see that Black has the quicker wrist action. Very important when it gets down to the bullet chess part. And again, the clock situation, just keep an eye on it. The white knight now under attack. Eric does not want to lose that white knight with the black rook coming to take him. Is he going to move the knight away?
He's going to initiate a set trades. I can feel it. And if I were Eric, I would just imbalance the whole position and just start activating the rooks. I wouldn't care so much about these knights at the edge of the board.
He's got to win. Let's remember, Eric has to win. And now 55 seconds left for Black with no time being added on.
Oh.
Eric, a minute left. It's going to be so tense at the end now.
The position is getting dangerous for Eric.
Black's going for the attack. Okay, a bit of a retreating move there. I did not expect that, bringing the bishop all the way back, but he's putting White's knight under attack there. Eric's surely got to get that knight out, and now the pawn drops. Black is taking control, but he's only got 45 seconds.
Anything can happen when the clock is ticking, and both players, they are in the zone. They're getting ready for the ensuing time scramble that's going to happen. And
don't you sometimes want to shout at the players and just shout,
Eric is the one
move,
that
Eric.
has less time on the clock.
I know, he's got to move. Come on, big chief. That's isn't it? Come on, you've got to move. Your knight's on pre, just move. You've got 30 seconds left. This is not looking good for Eric.
The knight just has to retreat.
And Black comes in on the offensive here.
Oh, Black's pieces are so beautifully positioned. You know, that's a lovely move. Make an escape square for the king.
17 seconds. And Black takes a pawn. Eric, you've got to move. You've got 17. This is looking really good for Black now.
Knight.
He's taken the knight. It's going downhill very quickly for Eric here. Horrible position. And he's got to win. It's looking like Black's going to do the job here.
Absolutely.
This is going to be heartbreaking for Eric after having all the chances for out. And he's just a little bit slower as well. Look at how quickly Black is moving. He's banging the moves out. 5, 4, and he's resigned.
Yeah.
Well, what can be said there, Jovanka?
I mean, I have to say, absolutely magnificent stuff from Renato Terry, from their international master from Peru. You know, he started off with a very heartbreaking loss. He came back with a resounding victory, and now he I feel like he had the upper hand, the better strategy in the Armageddon match.
And there we see the final result of this match, and we see that Terry did go 2-1, and he won his last 2 games to do that, the Armageddon game being the all-important one. And that's what you've got to do, right? You've got to fight. You've got to fight hard when you're down, and again, little analogies to life. But very, very tough there. So, but, you know, what we feel Eric's going to be thinking there. I mean, it's horrible to lose that way. I mean, there is a bar. Maybe he should go to the bar now. What do we think?
Perhaps I would recommend getting some fresh air and just shake it off, because he still has a second chance. That's the beauty of the double elimination format.
That's right, and the second chance is, well, Eric now goes into the bottom bracket. but if he keeps winning, he can still get through to the final. He's got to recover from that one. It just was, we had everything in that match, everything we could possibly hope for. We had queens, we had checkmates, we had losses of time, we had Armageddon. Literally, what else would we want?
The players delivered, and there we see the routine that Renato Terry employed to use. You saw him stretch, we saw him appear so calm, and he just played with the black pieces so perfectly in those critical moments.
I mean, it's like every kind of sport, you've got to get yourself into that zone, and you've got to. And you can see here, this is so exciting, all these queens on the board. Eric showing a lot of emotion there, just realizing that things didn't go his way. I mean, another day, I'm sure they would have. It should have been a draw position. He did not keep an eye on his clock, but I think just the focus there will show that, you know, Terry obviously was the more focused player, and he kept his cool a little bit better than Eric.
Mm-hmm. As a technology and digital privacy company, Kaspersky supports the secure advancement of chess in the digital space and its expansion into online tournaments. It's the perfect combination of human excellence and strong technology. So.
Indeed, and what a day we've had. It's not the end though. We had some brilliant games, 5 brilliant games, but tomorrow we're back again, and let's have a look at the players that are lined up for these matches. And well, I'm sure all of you at home know some of these players. Jovanka, we have Jose Martinez there versus Ray Robson, and what about these guys?
I mean, this one is going to be an insane matchup. Jose Martinez is such a good blitz player against Ray Robson, who is equally good, equally fast. And then, of course, we have Leinier Dominguez, who has been blitz world champion, and he faces off against quite possibly the fastest man online, Andrew Tang.
Yeah, Andrew Tang is a legend, as is Dominguez, but it's going to be exciting. It's going to be great. Let's just have a quick recall of the results of the day, and there's been a bunch of brilliant moves, brilliant drama, and you've got more in store for you. Just be here tomorrow and you'll find out the other results on the other days. So, well, we know the results, don't we? We know that Eric's gone out and we know that Wesley's gone through. So, no, I think we're going to say goodbye. We're going to love you and leave you.
Same time, same place, ready for more action. See you tomorrow.